I thought I'd start with my story. So I'm from New Jersey. I went to the University of Delaware. After I graduated, my dad said, you have to get a job with a big company and, get your 401k going. And I bought into that for a little while. And it just became too much and knew it wasn't me. I really had no passion in my life. I had always worked in hospitality, and I really missed it. So I threw off my shirt and tie, put on some flip-flops, quit my job, and I moved to Rehoboth Beach to just bartend and live life on the beach, boats, beaches, and hammocks. So that was my life for a couple years until I traded in for the best job a guy could ever have, which was becoming a dad, which really lit a fire under me to get my entrepreneurial spirit back up and running. So life was extremely hectic, starting a family, managing a few different restaurants. I felt like I kind of lost sight of the beach. Like, why did I come to Rehoboth Beach? And I realized the only time I really ever get that escape anymore is when it's 2 o'clock in the morning, everyone's finally to bed, and I go out on my backyard hammock and enjoy beer for 15 minutes before I fall asleep. So I promised myself if I ever started my own restaurant, which was my goal, is I would call it the Crooked Hammock. So I'd always remember those times that were so hard for me, and I still really crave that beach escape. So that's where the name comes from. It comes from my Crooked Hammock in my backyard. So what we are is we're a craft brewery. So this is not a trend in my mind. In America, before Prohibition, breweries were everywhere. People went to their local breweries the same way they went to their local restaurants. So when Prohibition came through, it killed local breweries in our country, and we were all forced to, drink macro brews for a long time until, at least in Delaware, Sam Calagione started Dogfish Head, was really able to change those laws and open up a lot of opportunities for people like me to be able to brew beer and serve beer that's different from the beer that everyone else is used to drinking. So we're a craft brewery, and we're also a restaurant. So when we decided we wanted to open a brewery, we decided that, hey, we're hospitality guys. We know we do a really good job at hospitality. We know that we can invite people into our home, really explain to them what our brand is all about, who we are, and set the stage for an experience for them to enjoy our beer in the atmosphere that we want them to enjoy it in. So we decided not to open a brewery, but to open a brew pub. So that allows us to brew beer, serve food, create a lively, flavorful environment, and show people what we're all about. So our mission is to provide a backyard beach escape. So we're not trying to create paradise, we're trying to create Sussex County, which we love. That's why we all came here. So to me, Sussex County has a very unique beach feel, at least in Rehoboth and Lewis, a very unique beach feel, kind of mixed, surrounded by what's kind of a rural environment, and to me, it creates a very non-pretentious, very non-threatening, friendly, familiar, casual environment that I loved, and that's why I came here. I think a lot of people share that, so we really want to embrace that. Eat, drink, and be merry is something that we talk about a lot, and kind of our energy and our attitude about who we are and what we want people to think of and how we train our staff. We want to be really value-oriented in what we're doing. We're part of a restaurant group that operates Naj Restaurant in Rehoboth Beach, which is a bistro and a wine bar. And we struggle with value there because we get perceived, oh, that's wine, it's going to be very expensive. So from the gate, we're just trying to be really value-focused and approachable and affordable to everybody. So great differentiators of our business are the drinks. Obviously, we're a craft brewery, so every brewer's craft is an art, and it's unique from other breweries. So I'm sure someone's going to ask me the question about what makes your beer special, and I'd be happy to answer that. The food, we're inspired by the backyard cookout, which I think everyone also enjoys. We're at the beach, it's summertime, 4th of July weekend is coming up. I know me and my memories as a child and growing up, those were the times where we were outside cooking, family and friends. Everything always seems great on those weekends. So, and service, we want to be fast, quick service restaurant. Our house, which is being built right now and to be open in end of August, beginning of September, was designed by a guy named Rich Stokes, who's an architect from Philadelphia, who we were lucky enough to have come involved, and I think we built a building that everyone's going to be really happy to just be in. So, the details down to the sensory level is what we think about when we talk about building a brand and building our concept deck is the music. Like, I was excited when we were all listening to Jimmy Buffett before we started. Colors, images that are going to be everywhere in our building are the images of nostalgia and family and human relationship and summertime. Aroma and taste, think about fresh mowed grass. We have a huge backyard on the back of our business and a big deck. Think about the smoke coming off the grill and the aroma of hops. The indescribable feeling of our brand, lively, active, fun, easygoing. Just the feeling of, like that's what we want to put in a bottle. So it's a couple of slogans that we use are hop in a hammock or like a hammock in a bottle. And that's our intention on our growth plan is how do we create this emotion of escape and that feeling you get when you lay in a hammock and put it in a bottle, so when you crack it open you feel that same emotion. So we think you guys are our customers. We're really trying to build a place that is welcoming and comfortable for 20-somethings, for retirees, for kids. There's a playground in our backyard. That's who we are. That's who I am.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Great presentation.
That goes by really fast.
Right on 6 minutes, too. That's pretty good. That's impressive. That's hard to do in 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Any questions for Rich? I'm just going to ask everyone to use the mic, too, when we do the questions.
Well, Rich, question for you. I wasn't clear. You said you're part of the group that includes Naj,
Yeah, so
but yet you're an independent entrepreneur.
So I worked for Naj Restaurant for on and off for the last 8 years, with a couple breaks in between. And my business partner, Josh Grabsky, he's the owner of Naj Restaurant.
I see.
And the company that he's creating is called Levita Hospitality, and I'm sure he's going to want to come to this after I share my experience with him. He got the same opportunity that he gave to me a long time ago, where he was a hardworking restaurateur, aspiring restaurateur, business owner, and somebody said, hey, you're doing a great job, let's be partners. And he's given me that same opportunity. So this is a project so much bigger than I ever thought my first restaurant would be, which is really exciting for me and for my family. And so
I'm sure it takes a lot of capital to build that building and to open a restaurant, so probably good that you got some deep pockets with you. That's a good thing. Probably.
Absolutely, that helps. And as far as being a restaurateur, there's so much risk involved, and there's so much risk involved in this. Just because it's a bigger project, it doesn't take away that risk. But now opening my first restaurant and being in a position where there's financing behind it and capital behind it, it's allowed us to do so many things I never thought we'd be able to do leading up to the opening of the restaurant. So, it's been a great partnership so far.
Any other comments or questions?
Rich, you said Lewis, where?
Yeah, so it's on Kings Highway. It's on the corner of Kings Highway and Dartmouth Road. So easiest way to describe it is if you're coming from Rehoboth and you're going to the ferry, Community Bank is on the corner. They always have the lighted sign, don't text and drive. You turn off to your right there, and it's about 1/10 of a mile on the right side of the road past the medical complex, the funeral home, the dentist office. We're right there, that really busy intersection. Yeah.
Other questions or comments?
That I'm not familiar with brew pubs, only how does the net profit break down between alcohol and food?
So we're a restaurant.
Yeah.
So our primary business needs to be in serving food. We have the ability to brew beer on premise, to sell beer that we brew in our brewery to our guests, and also we have the ability to sell beer to go, as well as having the ability to sell beer to distributors for commercial distribution. So our plan for this location, because of the size of the brewery that we built, the location of the business, is to not be industrial, but to stay as a commercial business and focus on hospitality and build this brand and hopefully build a strong following for this brand. And stage 2 for us would be to work on an industrial type brewing environment, which would be outside of Lewis, somewhere like.
Only your net profit. Yeah, how does that break it down between alcohol and food?
It's about 50-50. It's about 50-50, yeah. The costs involved in brewing beer are much smaller than the costs involved in managing a restaurant and serving food. We have one brewing staff, one brewer, and the costs involved in brewing beer, it's all really in packaging. So, and we're not packaging, so the profits are there and the costs are very low.
Yeah, that I was in a restaurant in Mexico that advertised itself as having the world's largest hammock. And
Oh, yeah?
it was a huge hammock, and all the guests would play in it. And it became a real draw.
Yeah, I've seen those. They're expensive.
So you're not open yet, right?
We're not open yet.
But
so
are you currently brewing beer and selling? or-
no, we're not.
Okay.
We're not. So we are still in the construction phase. We have a shell of a building, and our drywallers should be there right now. If they're not there, you're in trouble. But so we should be drywall in the next couple weeks, next week or so, and then starting all of our finish work inside. We're still waiting for our final license from the TTB, which is the federal agency that governs production of alcohol. So we're still waiting for that license, and we're hoping that we'll get that over the next month so we could actually start brewing beer in the middle of August, because we could technically open without our own beer, but I mean, we're a brewery. I think that would be a mistake. So we're going to make sure we have that up and running beforehand.
And I think a lot of people might not, you're getting a lot of national recognition. Would you like to explain a little bit about that?
It's so lucky, and it's so funny when you have an idea and you think it's a silly idea. My advice would be don't keep it inside, to share it, because the worst that's going to happen is it just goes away. But we had this really silly idea to start this Facebook campaign to solicit names for our beers, and it started at a party we threw at the Cantina, which is another restaurant that's part of our group, and we got a bunch of different ideas for beer names, and we want to do this with a lot of things that we do and kind of get customers' input so people feel invested in what we're doing. And so we picked the top 16 beer names, and we started a contest on our Facebook page that was like a March Madness style contest, where so it'd be like, if my beer name, he told me not to do that. My beer name versus your beer name, and then everyone on Facebook would vote. Liz Kornheiser works as a pastry chef at Naj, and her father is Tony Kornheiser from ESPN. He has a TV show, Part of the Interruption. So he just happened to come to the party that day and submitted the name Wilbon, which is his partner on Part of the Interruption. So when we were going through them and I saw it, I was, did he really do this? Like, we have to use this. And I reached out to ESPN, I told them what we were doing, and they started promoting it on their Facebook page. So I feel I intentionally put him up against a bartender from the Big Chill named Greg Plummer, who is just a really funny guy with this great self-deprecating sense of humor, and I knew he would kind of go all out to try to beat Tony Kornheiser. And he made this video, it was like a Rocky-style video of him going up against Tony Kornheiser in a beer naming contest, and it just went viral. And that week, I mean, our Facebook page got seen by like 200,000 people, and we got like thousands of new likes, and it was just a silly idea, and it's still a really silly idea, and it keeps growing and growing, and yeah, everywhere I go now, people are like, wow, beer naming contest. Silly, but it's been great for us.
I have two questions. One is seating, your seating capacity, is it going to be indoors and outdoors, or just indoors?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I'm not sure if you guys could see over here, but the building is designed to be very open, and there's a ton of glass everywhere. So when you're in the front of the building, you can see right through the building to the backyard. So this is an 80-seat dining room, and off the back is a screened porch with a bar and 25 other seats. This is our brewery, so it kind of creates an L shape with the bar in the center of it. The bar has about 40 chairs, 25 seats at the bar, and then 40 seats for dining around it. And then it opens up with 3 big garage doors out to a deck that has 65, 70 seats, something like that, and a stage. And then you step off the deck, and there's a big patio with a fire pit, and then a huge grassy backyard that we'd use for lawn chairs and cornhole and ladder toss.
That's great.
And
Rich,
a playground, yeah.
can you share with the group what your food menu is going to be?
Absolutely. So like I said, it's inspired by the backyard cookout. And our idea on the food is, hey, at Naj, we have great trained culinarians that practice these techniques every day that create just delicious food. And hopefully anyone who's eaten there agrees with me. But the style of food that we do sometimes is scary for people because it's unfamiliar ingredients, and we try to be just more eclectic there. So we thought, how do we kind of take the techniques that we've learned to do really well and consistently at Naj, and they're not hard for us anymore, and use them in food that's really familiar to people. Because we don't want to be scary, we want to be familiar to everybody. So this place is all about Americana, and it's about approachable, familiar food done really creatively with really sound techniques and great flavor. So, I mean, our menu is burgers, hot dogs, chicken sandwiches, a big list of pub kind of style appetizers, you know, buffalo wings and deviled eggs, and there's lots of meat on a stick.
Fish tacos?
Skewers, there'll be some
fish tacos?
fish tacos.
Okay.
So we really want to be really approachable and familiar when it comes to the food that we're offering on our menu when you look at it. So many times they'll be in front of Naj, and there'll be a couple that'll walk up and they'll be all excited to look at the menu, and they'll be like, foie gras? Let's not go in there. Or, you know, ooh, like duck. Like, some people are scared of ducks, you know? So we just wanted to make sure that every ingredient that we put on the menu, everyone would know what it is and not be, well, I don't know what that is, I'm not going to order that. But from a flavor standpoint and a technique standpoint, everything is from scratch. So,
Rich, congratulations on your successes to this point, but I'm sure the path hasn't been completely smooth along the way. Can you share with us one of the major obstacles?
Absolutely. So when I said I left and I came back a couple different times at Naj's, I did that. The last time I left, I went to work at Dewey Beach Enterprises, which is Ruddertown, Cape Pasa, that organization. I ran all their marketing and front of house operations for about 3 years. And talked to Josh that whole time. We always stayed really friendly. And I kind of shared with him my vision about what I wanted to do. And he's like, I think I'm in the right spot now. We have some other investors that want to get involved. I think we could pull this off. And so I left my job in Dewey and came back to work with Josh, and that was 3 years ago now, 3.5 years ago. So, I mean, there's been properties that we, you know, thought was it, you know, was ready to go. When we found this property, this was my favorite out of every property we looked for. Just, it was right off of Route 1, so you didn't have the traffic that you have on Route 1. It's really easy to get to. Everyone that lives in Lewis, you don't have to deal with downtown Lewis traffic or the highway to get to us. So I think we got a perfect location. When we got it, and this is great, we got a great deal on it. Shell Brothers had purchased the lot so they could have access to Beach Plum Dunes, which is a new community that they're building behind our restaurant, which is great, 160 rental units and walking distance to us. But it turns out that the site that it was on, in the 80s, the DelDOT had used it to put rubble from Route 1. So when we got there, we had to get soil evaluations and borings done, and we literally had to dig out the entire property that we purchased and replace it with new property, you know, which was a huge undertaking and a huge cost to do it. But so I think that was the biggest hurdle. And then timing-wise, like, I had never built anything before, so this is a huge project, and I've learned so much about building and construction and the politics behind it. But, you know, the timing of it, when we got to this past winter, it was like, hey, we got to get our foundation poured, or we're not going to be able to open, you know, when we want to, which was this past spring, and that didn't happen. You know, it was too cold, it was too wet. We couldn't pour a foundation until the beginning of this year, when it got warm enough to be able to do that, which put us back another 6 months, you know, from our date. So. And now there's still, I feel like from the time we started and we said, all right, this will be our new date, it's doubled. Every time we've set a date, it's doubled. The cost, every time we set a cost, it's doubled. Like, every time it's doubled, so just double whatever you think
1
it's
minute,
gonna
Mike,
cost.
sorry. Just 1 second. We have a couple people here.
Yeah. So obviously there's a lot of microbrew competition in the area, maybe not in Lewis itself, but surrounding. So bringing your focus back to your beer recipes. I mean, what's your plan for that? Do you have a core group and then you're going to experiment outside of that?
Yeah.
I just want to hear a little more about your beer recipe.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of referenced the whole prohibition thing, which I think is really important when people ask that question, because I've been asked it so many times. So, don't you think there's too many breweries already? Like, Absolutely not. There's definitely not too many breweries. If they're in Prohibition, they shut down restaurants, and there were no restaurants anywhere. We had to make your own food in your basement, or when they started legalizing it, all the food came from one farm, you know. When everyone started to open new restaurants again, they probably would be saying the same thing. Are there going to be too many restaurants now? So, brewing is a craft and an art, and every brewer has their own signature and their own way of brewing beer. So when we put a name on it like IPA, anyone who drinks lots of different IPAs could start to understand the subtle differences that come from an IPA. So we'd also decided to start as a brew pub with a smaller brew house. We brew 7 barrels at a time, which is 14 kegs, to give ourselves the ability to experiment and see what our customer wants from us. So in building this hospitality launch pad for a beer brand, we feel like, hey, we're putting people in the environment they want to be in. Do they still want that really hoppy big beer? Like, am I wrong? Do people really like laying in their backyard hammock drinking a 90-minute IPA? Like, I don't. Like, I want a really easy drinking light beer. So we want to experiment in that. We're going to have year-round beers that our brewer, Chris Wright, has recipes for that we've tasted, that he's homebrewed for us, that are a Saison, a blonde, a pale ale, and a brown. And then we have a seasonal that, the way that it's looking, our first season will probably be Oktoberfest, you know. But, and then have a seasonal beer and about 3 other taps that we could do casks in and one-offs and be a little bit more experimental in what we do.
We have time for 2 more questions.
If you want to appeal to the senior market,
Okay?
please be aware of the noise level in the restaurant, that if it's too noisy,
Yeah,
that you're going to lose the senior market.
absolutely. Thank you for that comment.
You have a great location.
Thanks.
You have a great location. You're on the right side of 1, meaning the beach side of 1.
Yeah.
And you're headed towards the ferry. And here's the big question about parking.
Uh-huh.
Hopefully you have plenty of space behind or somewhere for parking
Yeah.
because you're going to need it.
I hope so. I hope we don't have enough parking. But we have, I think the number is about 110 parking spots. So we have a huge parking lot that surrounds our building. And then also we purchased a small kind of piece of land that was next to us to build an additional kind of staff parking lot. The Beach Plum Dunes community behind us, hopefully we have a good relationship with them. And then there's also another lot that's really nearby that if we did want to expand our parking, we would have that ability, which we have a plan in mind to expand our backyard. Because right now, if you walk into our backyard, it's completely wooded. So it's almost like a little bit of a beer garden feel in the back. You don't feel like you're on the highway. But there's an opportunity for us to go kind of into the woods. So we have this idea, this kind of like outside treehouse bar experience where you would walk out on pathways into the trees and be really secluded. So if we do any kind of expansion like that, we'll need even more parking.
My last question goes back to your timing and somewhat to the money behind how long did it actually take you from start to, let's say, this August to go into business?
I guess from really pushing, it's been 3 years. Well, from August, yeah, about 3.5 years. Yeah.
A lot of entrepreneurs forget about how long it takes to actually get permitted to go into business and
Yeah.
the cost of opportunity of that same time period.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We've had a great discussion, but we do need to wrap up. So in closing, what can we do as a community to support you and help you grow?
Come visit us, please. I mean, that's the number one thing is, you know, when you see something like this, and I see like this as well, like, hey, this is foolproof. Like, everyone loves food, and everyone loves beer, and everyone loves hospitality. Like, this can't lose. But I've been a part of some losing restaurants where we had the same feeling kind of coming into it, and it really just comes down to the people that we get on board here. So if you have anyone in the community that you think would be a great addition to our team, please send them our way. could apply on our website, crookedhammock.com. And really, passion and dedication of the people that are on top, and that always trickles down. So hopefully, my passion and my energy and my desire to succeed can hopefully motivate my staff to deliver something great for you guys.